Hello everyone, welcome to History Forge. My name is Taylor Hamlin. Going to be reviewing weeks 27 and 28. I'm going to be reviewing both weeks just because both weeks are very similar. In fact, what I did was two of my History Day groups, the websites and essays, they got the entire week during class to actually work on their website and essay. It was guided and I gave them advice and I was able to walk around, but they got that entire week just because that Friday their projects were due by midnight. So I wanted to make sure they were getting plenty of class time to get that stuff done. And then what's going to happen is I flip it the next week. So the other three categories, the documentaries, the exhibits, and performances, they got the next week. And so that's actually the current week I'm in right now filming. I do that because I really believe that students should have project time in class. I know a lot of times teachers assign projects and this is something you do after school. Problem is, projects take a lot of time and they're very frustrating because of how ambiguous and abstract they are. So a lot of students really don't understand what to do, and so what they do is they procrastinate. Procrastination really only, I feel like, happens when you have a lack of motivation. And you get a lack of motivation from a lot of ways, but I feel like one of the biggest ones is just uncertainty. You don't know what to do. And so when you have a project with students here in the classroom, the teacher can really kind of not swoop in, but keep an eye on things, encourage students, compliment students, critique, those things. But you have to give them the time, and you have to be good about actually stepping in, critiquing. That's, project time is not time for the teacher to do nothing. It's not time to get caught up on some grading. It really does need to be at least, I would say, 50 to 60% of that time in class to go around and actually help the students, be there, be a teacher, actually have some teaching moments with some kids. So that being said, we're going to go into how I organize this. This will probably be about a 10-minute video, maybe longer. Looking at Monday, February 25th, what I told all the websites and essays, hey guys, you're going to go work. But before I did that, for about 5 to 10 minutes, I explained social studies skills and the race strategy. If you're not familiar with my videos, so if you're not familiar with the race strategy or you're not familiar with social studies skills, I have a lot of other videos you can kind of explore. Just look for the videos that say RACE, that's race, and then the other videos talk about social studies skills. I have a bunch of them. A lot of them start with primary source analysis. So check those out if you're a teacher or a student or anybody else who cares. But I really went over and reviewed and said, hey guys, we spent nearly 3 quarters learning all these different skills, all these abstract things, all the stuff you kind of pulled from all the primary sources and put into real analysis. You have learned how to come up with your own words, your own thoughts. That's a pretty cool thing to say, that you are being someone unique to yourself. And so telling the students, hey, you need to actually now go take all that skill stuff and apply it to your projects. So just reminding them, you already have the ability. I've already tested you on it. I can prove it through evidence. Now go do it. That's one of the hardest things to do is actually take the ability you have and now go practice it. That's kind of, I tell the kids, you're going to master these skills in my class through tests and stuff. That's not real life. Real life is projects and being by yourself or working with a team. That's when those skills really count. If you can't do them then you really haven't actually mastered those skills at that adult level. So that being said, I then released them. So the website and essay students, which was probably about, I don't know, maybe 30 to 40% of my kids, actually definitely less than 40, probably closer to 30%. They would go out into the hallway and we have booths and stuff for them, so they would just sit and work. And I could see them the entire time, so I'd poke my head out and be like, you working? And most of them, yes. I think I only had to harp on one student the entire time because they're just, not focusing. Or one group, I should say. But all the other groups are doing great. All right, so going on down, what would the rest of the students do? I had about, probably 70% of my students still in classroom with me. And I could have given them a work week, but they actually get longer because their projects just weren't due. So what do you do with them? Well, I think peer editing then is a really good teaching moment for them, especially since so many of those students are out there working. So we did 3 days of peer editing, and you kind of see down here, right here, I have it where it starts. Peer editing websites and essays, 25-minute timer. So the students had to sit in classroom for 25 minutes and peer edit. Now, in a social studies classroom, I want my students to do well with spelling. I want them to be grammatically correct. I want them to do a good job with their format and all that structure. But as a social studies teacher, I feel like it is my primary job to teach them about more big idea kind of stuff. So, for example, what we did was did the students prove their thesis? And so we talked about what a thesis was. We reviewed real quick. We talked about what it looks like to prove your thesis. We brought up the race strategy again. And so after another 10-minute lecture just for them, I turned them loose on some of the projects. And there's a complicated way they could choose projects. If anybody's interested, I could make a video for you later. Just let me know. But they would choose a project and they would just focus on the theme of the project, which this year is Triumph and Tragedy, and then they would focus on the thesis. That's it. And I said, for 25 minutes, you have to make comments. You have to tell them whether or not they backed their thesis up correctly, and if they did Triumph and Tragedy, if they put that theme into their project. And then the kids were like, that's it? I'm like, that's it. Don't look for spelling, don't look for grammar. If you see something obvious and you want to fix it, fine, but move on quickly past it. I was able to do that and comfortably do that because our English teacher actually collaborated with me, and she actually had students do a lot of structure and grammatical and spelling checks with my project. So she was covering her standards, I was able to cover mine, so as a collaboration it worked out really well. And you can see here these are the two questions I made the students do. The 3.4 is the skill they had to do. I have it on my board. Yeah, how do these sources back up the thesis, basically, is the question that they had to answer. So that's the skill they had to go through. And that was it. They did that for 3 days. So if you scroll down, you'll see that right here they had peer editing and then peer editing again. So honestly, if I scroll, I'm going to scroll past a little bit of this week and scroll to March 4th, which is the current week right now I'm in. I did the same thing. You see right here, it says documentary, exhibit, performance, work week. The students the people had to do the exact same thing. The students had to work. They just flipped. So it was a lot faster this week because the kids kind of remembered. So I was able to be like, hey, who remembers this? And then, maybe one or two students wouldn't, so I would just make sure to check on them more. But for the most part, everyone's like, oh, yeah, I remember the discussion last week, and we're good, we got it. And then I walked around and I checked, I'm like, yep, you guys got it, great. And so it was really good to see that happen, the retention. So they did peer editing on Wednesday. Thursday, it was a project all work day, so the essays and exhibits on February 28th were already working on their project, so that was no different day for them. And then everybody else got at least one day. I felt like that was fair because the other 3 days they were spending all their time working on their peer editing. And so Thursday they got a project work day, and then Friday, everything kind of came to a head. Essays and websites were due by midnight, so I told them, guys, you have to get your stuff done. Whatever happens, happens. And we did the annotated bib checks. We talked about that. We also, all projects had to show me improvements, including the ones who were peer editing that week, because they did get time throughout the week to work on their project, so I expected them to actually show me improvements too. And then if any students got done, they had to watch the slavery video lecture. So I told students, get it done, watch the video lecture, and that's it. And we did slavery because we're getting into the Civil War, so I wanted to start talking more about the actual reasons why the Civil War got started, slavery being the biggest reason. So we're going to slowly start getting them into that idea because we already covered immigration. We covered immigration from the 1800s to basically the 1880s already. So now that we got that covered, we kind of covered Western movement. We didn't kind of do it. We did cover Western migration. We talked about the forced relocation of peoples. We did a really good job with the earlier Native American unit earlier in the year. So, a lot of times with my class, I'm not bound by I'm not bound by the historical calendar or chronology because I teach by themes more than chronology. So, for example, with migration and immigration, we went from 1800s when the first peoples were coming here, or the first European peoples, all the way to through German, through Irish, and then we get into the Chinese immigration, then we get into a few other groups of people that were coming over. So it wasn't as hard for me to do. I'm going to easily be able to fit the Civil War and do it justice, I feel like. So we'll talk about slavery and its impact, and we'll get into a few of the battles and stuff, but not many of them, honestly. But we'll talk more about the big themes of the war. So that's that for that week. All the stuff was due. I had a lot of students stay after school. I told them that I would stay till midnight. I think the student that stayed the longest stayed till about 10 o'clock, so I was here. Going down then. Yeah, here we are. So Monday, oops, I spilled the cup. Monday, March 4th, it's actually the day I'm filming right now. We flipped it, like I said, documentaries, exhibits, and performances. They're doing their thing. I can pretty much skip that day. The only difference is the students who are doing peer editing, instead of getting time to work on their project, because their projects are done, essays and websites turn their stuff in. So after they're done peer editing for 25 minutes, they would have nothing to do. I would give them the video lecture then. So they have to do the same video lecture that the other students did last week. So again, getting into that slavery idea. And then moving down to Wednesday, more peer editing, and then we're going to get into preparing for the interviews. So I want to start talking to the students about like what it means to interview and what it means to speak well. So we'll talk about posture, making eye contact, body language, how to answer a question appropriately and professionally. And we're also going to start talking about what questions judges might ask of them. So just we want to kind of take some of the mystery away from the judging process just so they can come in confident. So we got that. And then Thursday, March 7th, students are going to be really getting close to being done. So we're going to review all the presentation material. So my essays and website students will kind of review what they want to cover or what they think the most important stuff is. They're also going to review some of their paper documents that can still be edited, like their process papers. So they're going to review that, make sure those are good to go. Websites, I'm going to tell them to proofread their bibliographies. And then I should actually rephrase that. Proofread their process papers. That's what I meant to say. And then student reflection of the year-long project. I have a questionnaire. I just want to ask students to reflect on their time working on the project, what they learned, what they think is the most valuable thing. We want to make sure students actually see the point of all this. I obviously think they learned something because I'm the one that created the curriculum. But I want them to also recognize it, and I want them to tell me honestly. Like if they don't feel like they did, I want them to tell me why. I feel like it's fair for me to know that. That way I can make the program better, or if it was a really bad program, if this wasn't working, I would ask them why, and if it wasn't, I would scrap it. So that's Thursday. That's the plan. And then Friday, we actually have exhibits, documentaries, and performances. Need to show improvements. It doesn't say due because of this reason. They're not due. If you're a parent watching this, it's really important to remember. Exhibits, documentaries, and performances are not due until Monday morning when we actually present to judges. So this is what this means. Students need to make improvements by Friday. They need to show me a project that is practically done on Friday. It can either be done or practically done. And I'll tell kids, like, hey, on Saturday and Sunday, you can still work on your project. If you want to work on your exhibit, adding details, you're more than welcome to. Your documentary, say you want to add more images, or you want to edit it a little bit more, or you want to redo your narration so you talk slower, whatever you want, you can do that. But it's really important to remember that you don't want to overdo it. Like you don't want to be making so many changes on, that on Monday you've completely destroyed your project that you worked so hard on. So we try to carefully tell them, like, none of you should be working on your project Monday morning. If you have to, you could. If something falls apart or you forgot something, fine, fix it. But that should not be your goal. Your goal should be to be getting it done by Friday and then maybe just double-checking things on Saturday and Sunday. So I will check for improvements. If they're not there, it will be missing. If it is there, goody. Moving down, annotated bibs are due, although most of them are already done anyway. Final reminders for the different groups. So I'll tell, all on my whiteboard, I'll write all the different things that groups need to be aware of, and I'll say, hey, these are the things you need to practice. And then we'll do mock interviews. So the students will break off into groups, and I will tell them, all right, guys, you're going to each ask each other questions, and you're expected to answer each other, just like you're interviewing a judge. I'll tell the kids, if you are being the judge in the situation, do not laugh. Keep a stone face. You need to practice that. If you can't do that, that means you might not take the project seriously, and judges will not take laughter. And obviously, if you're enjoying yourself with the judge, it's fine. But if you're being smart, you know what I mean, if you're just kind of being sarcastic, judges aren't gonna like that. It's just one of those things that you want to be professional. So practicing against a person who is just sitting there kind of quietly and listening, it's kind of a good thing. And then after that, that's it. We're done. We're done with the year-long project. That being said, on Monday we'll do the contest, and then anybody who qualifies is allowed to go to state. And then there's the national stuff after that, but that'll be more students who actually make it that I'll make those videos for. So that is it. We're at 15 minutes, and yeah, I'm excited to see these projects come together. I'm still trying to decide if I want to do these videos after this project is done, because technically this project was only for this, so we'll see. But that'll be all for me. You guys take care. Oh yeah, if video description stuff, obviously, if you want to see any of that information, the calendar I'm talking about right now is there, and we have a bunch of social media stuff too. So have a great day. Take care. Stay warm. Bye.